Corporate accountability in cases of human rights violations. Who is responsible when companies cross the line? I remember there used to be this American president who talked about Saddam Hussein crossing the red line, which necessitated the US war on Iraq, basically. So right now, I just use that as an illustration anyways. I'm not here to necessarily talk about the war in Iraq as it then happened during the era of Saddam Hussein. Yeah, but basically what I'm saying is, who takes responsibility when corporate bodies, corporate entities, businesses, corporations, when they cross the red line? Who is responsible? I'm going to look at this from the angle of corporate structuring. Corporate structuring basically is that whole aspect of commercial or transactional law specialization where lawyers like myself would sit down in rooms, in boardrooms, to convince the board, especially when it has to do with certain risk factors that could arise, advising the board on ways and means through which the boardroom and the companies themselves can minimize the risk factors by structuring, corporate structuring, basically. So, for example, company A wants to engage in business with a mining company in northern Nigeria, for example. And of course, they may have carried out certain due diligence to find out that there might be certain human rights infractions. But what the company then does would be that, what the company will then do would be that they would engage with another third-party company that might also engage with another third-party company that would also engage with another third-party company. You can see that the line is already increasing. The number of participants are already increasing in the entire framework. And what that does basically would be to hide the identity of the exact company that is the core beneficiary of the activities and the actions on that mining site that may necessarily not comply with business and human rights principles as advanced in the UNGP. So that's what this is really about. But we've come into a place basically where corporate accountability in human rights is no longer optional. It's no longer optional. Companies have to take that responsibility. I'm not necessarily saying that there are not ways through which lawyers and other professionals can assist companies to have that cover and to run away from liability. That happens a lot. That happens a whole lot. I can say that for sure because it's actually a reality. That's how a lot of companies basically operate. So when we say that corporate accountability is no longer optional, we mean that companies have brought themselves into that naked framework that allows the public to see companies for who companies really are. We see the companies for who they are. Nobody is hiding behind the scene, and everybody is basically aware that, okay, if this company tells us A, we can get to the root of what this company is really about. That's why we talk about the supply chain, the entire network of the activities and responsibilities of that company, to be able to track that company right to the very source of where those activities basically take place. Even though a company would have to hide so much, we would now go further to lift the veil on the activities and to carry out a trail of activities to find out where is the power, where is that power derived from. You would see a lot of people carrying out activities, and of course, there's another company that is floating, another company that is playing another company. At the end of the day, you cannot necessarily say, okay, this is who carried out these actions. But with specialized trainings now, and of course, with better information, it still definitely will boil down to finding out which of these companies would be held responsible at the end of the day. Another thing I would also like to mention as it relates to accountability is that you can see accountability from legal means wherein a court would have to decide that after the facts are laid bare before the court will have to decide that this company is accountable and should be made accountable, especially in terms of remedies to the victims, remedies to persons or even communities who have suffered as a result of the activities of these companies. So the courts definitely help out in one case. The other case, basically, you can talk of non-legal means. You can talk of issues around the reputational crisis of, that these companies can get into as a result of their activities. No company would like to be dragged on social media or maybe dragged in the public space, things like that. So a lot of companies would want to really protect their image to the point that nobody is dragging them and they're able to protect their reputation. So for companies that really care about, protecting their reputation, they would definitely want to ensure that they have accountability as part of their goals, and they are willing to ensure that they put structures in place that would not bring down the reputation of that particular company. I've talked about complicity already away in the examples that I gave, but the truth be told, a lot of companies may not be outrightly complicit, but they may be complicit through third parties, through the third party's third party. In some cases, through the third party's third party's third party, but there can still be a way to find out who sits at the top of that entire framework, in finding out which company is basically responsible. You cannot basically tell me that maybe companies that are maybe, for example, into solar technology, creation of batteries and all of that, you can easily tell. You can follow the money, you can follow the trail to be able to find out who is basically responsible at the end of the day. So basically, it's very important. It's essentially important that we take corporate accountability very seriously. There's really no point for companies to begin to hide in the shadows and get the dirty job done through other third parties, smaller companies that may not necessarily even know what's basically at stake. We must be able to lift the veil on companies and to find out, is this company responsible for certain actions, certain inactions? Are they complicit? If they are complicit, then basically they should be held accountable for their actions. So this is just a tidbit on accountability of companies in cases of human rights violations, basically.